Welcome to the Norfolk UnOrdinary podcast. I'm your host, Dan Johnson. I've lived here in Norfolk County for over 40 years, and together today, we're going to hear from the unordinary people who make our small towns and countryside a great place to call home. This episode of Norfolk UnOrdinary is brought to you by Coco Cabana Chocolate Fudge Gourmet Cafe. Follow them on Facebook and Instagram as they're always posting pictures of new and creative sweet treats. When you drop into Coco Cabana, say hello to its owner, Dave Tank, who has been serving the Port Dover community since 1995. Say hello to me too. I try to start my day at Coco's with friendly conversation and a good cup of tea. Open 7 days a week year-round. Start your morning or fuel your afternoon with a hot coffee, tea, espresso, latte, and once you see it, you'll want to grab a little sweet piece of fudge from Coco Cabana, 16 Walker Street, Port Dover, Ontario. Chris Veska from Port Dover, Ontario. Chris, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks a lot.
Great to have you here, Chris. We're kind of neighbors. We live probably a 2-minute drive away.
I go by distance, kilometers. It's probably about a mile.
It's probably about a mile. So
everything here's got to be distance. Yeah.
Very good, very good. And great place to call home. I've gotten connected with Chris over the last little bit. And Chris, I got to say, you are here today because I think you are rather unordinary. And so I want to hear your story a little bit. Chris, the first time I ever really spent some time with you, I would say would have been this past summer. You were doing a long run, a very long run in a very small space down at the Silver Lake Park, I guess, down in Port Dover, and you were preparing for a significant event. We'll get to that a little while later, a long-distance endurance running event. And your target for that morning was it 40, 50?
Yeah, it was probably, 38K. It ended up being, 42K?
Sure.
Unplanned marathon, why not?
Yeah, an unplanned marathon in training. For a 100-miler event that you had coming up was that in northern Michigan or Pennsylvania?
Yeah, it was Michigan.
Michigan, yeah.
It's actually a place called Hell, Michigan.
Hell, Michigan.
So went to hell, but I'm here.
Good. And so, yeah, I joined you for a few laps that morning.
Yeah.
I was somewhat just starting to put in a bit of a training block for the Niagara Marathon in October. And I thought I'll hop in with Chris, get to know him a little bit, because Chris, I was thinking you might be a good guy to get in on the Norfolk UnOrdinary podcast. And I know I'm correct because you are rather unordinary in the accomplishments that you have as a runner. And Chris, as I've gotten to hear a little bit of your story, what makes you even more unordinary is like maybe the unordinary path for you into running, and then running at a high level. And you've really grown as an accomplished runner in just a few years. And that's awesome. So I want to hear a little bit of your story. And so Chris, Norfolk County is where you currently live now, but this is not where you grew up, right?
That's correct, yeah. I'm originally from Burlington, moved down here a few years ago for work, and decided, hey, this seaside town kind of reminds me a little bit of home, living close to the lake my whole life. So I thought, well, I'll give it a shot. I wasn't too keen on it at first, but you can't help but grow to love the area and what it offers, so...
Yeah. So were you single when you moved to Port Dover? Or I know you were commuting for work for quite a while, and then you met your wife here, right?
That's right. Yeah, I was just moved here fresh, and didn't know anybody. It's kind of intimidating and scary, and decided, well, I guess you got to get out there to meet people. And hey, there's a running club, I guess. I think I can run.
Yeah.
So why not join it and at least have a chance to talk to people outside of work?
Nice, cool. So we'll get into getting a bit of the itch for running in a bit, but let's start back in Burlington and growing up and stuff. Like, you weren't really into running much at all in your 20s and into your 30s. So, what was your life like growing up? Like, did you do no running, no physical activity? What were you into as a child?
Well, I was into a lot of different things. More of an engineering type, so constructing things, and running was not a thing for me because I was always the slowest kid in school. Now it's hard to think of that in a sense, but endurance kind of comes to me more naturally. And as a kid, endurance sports aren't really a thing. So
Right.
yeah, I was always active doing, activities, but it wasn't really till I came here to Norfolk that, you just by happen chance, you kind of figure out what your niche is or what you're good at. So I just kind of stumbled upon, hey, I'm actually kind of okay at something, which is good.
Very good. Cool. And as an engineer, did you do some training in engineering and then get into that field of work?
Yeah. I mean, it was kind of natural for me. Different paths in life. I was, a musician in a band for a while, and went back to school and got various jobs, and ended up just through networking, came down to Simcoe for a engineering job, and kind of fell in love with it, which was great. And had I known that would bring me here, I would have never guessed it, but it did. So I think it was all just maybe good fortune, perhaps.
So being a Burlington guy, you are on the west end of the GTA. Did you know that land existed beyond Hamilton? Or
I did not. No.
Yeah. Okay. So that blows my mind. But the more I hear it now, I'm 40 now. I've heard that so many times about people from the GTA. They're like basically after Hamilton, it's like
it doesn't exist. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. So
maybe my Burlington snobbiness, I guess. It's hard
is
to
the
admit,
idea,
but I had no idea this road even went this way. And
like Highway 6 or
yeah, exactly. I'm like, oh, Highway 6 keeps going, and
yes,
I never even knew that. My first time to Port Dover, and I had worked in Simcoe for a few years. I didn't even know Port Dover existed, and I was actually surprised. Wow, there's another whole lake here. I've lived on Lake Ontario my whole life, and to see, wow, there's a whole other body of water. This is amazing. So it does feel like a untouched land, like it's unknown for me, and that's quite the alluring thing. There's so much here, and it's just it's different than home for sure. But this is my home now.
Yeah. Nice. So I'll bring up two things here. On your Strava account. So Strava, for those listening who may not be familiar with it, Strava is like Facebook for runners, bikers and cyclists and swimmers. It's sort of like an online community where you can share hikes or runs or cycling events, races, any activity that you do. You can sort of upload your activities to this platform called Strava, and then it's a bit of a social networking community. You can like someone's activity, you can comment on it, you can share it, you can sort of stay connected with other athletes. It's like a news feed of just inspiration for some, because they can go look and see what activities people have done. They can see their times, they can see how fast they went. It can also be very discouraging if you're saying, oh man, that guy's so much faster than me, and man, I should be faster. So it's a great place. But on your Strava account, Chris, and you and I follow each other on there, I see that you still spend a lot of time running more towards that Burlington area, not Burlington, but in Dundas Valley. There's a great trail running system in there. I've actually never run in there. I think I've...
Oh, really? Well, you'll definitely have to come with us sometime.
Yeah, I think in university I did a cross-country race there.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe Mac hosted it. But I also see that you spend a lot of time running in the Turkey Point trails here in Norfolk County. Tell me a little bit about those two spots. And
well, I mean, I like the road. I love running on the road. I love feeling fast, but well, my wife is more of a trail runner, and I never even knew that running on trail was a thing. So getting more introduced into that, while you kind of fall in love with it, and it's always exploration. So try to spend time in different trail systems, and then also getting ready for races too. Like you do an ultra event, it's probably going to be on a trail. So yeah, Turkey Point's fantastic, and just another kind of place to call home. And then some spots in Burlington too. Why not throw in the mix? It's all about exploration. So actually, it's kind of funny. I would say that I probably know. Well, I know Port Dover's smaller, but I know almost every road in Port Dover much more than I know even some of my neighborhoods in Burlington, because I didn't really run at that time. So it's a great way to get out and explore your world.
Nice. Now, getting into the trails to do a lot of your training, are they intentional to get some of the elevation you need, some of the short, punchy hills you need? Is it more of a place where you're getting off the asphalt, so it's a bit softer? What's the strategy in getting into the trails?
You can say that, and sometimes you throw strategy out the window at times. It's just, hey, I just want to get out there. It's a beautiful day, or it's a terrible day, and I want to enjoy it. There's different fitness on trails for sure. I mean, it's definitely challenging. And, you can kind of tailor that to the races that you are coming up. But, I kind of like to be in a state of flux, I guess, throw the body a curveball and even just mentally to change it up to be out there.
Well, Chris, it's awesome to have you here in Norfolk County. And I think you said you moved here in 2017 is when you moved from Burlington to Port Dover. Is that right?
2015.
2015?
Time kind of flies when you're having fun, right?
Yeah, There you go. So I want to have a bit of conversation on this podcast, a little bit about like the wonder of this area that we have to call home. And for the listeners to have an appreciation, a thankfulness, and then also maybe to be inspired a little bit to, consider what they can do that's unordinary to help contribute to the community. And so I want to talk a little bit about Norfolk County, but I also want to keep talking a little bit about Chris Veska and some of your accomplishments because they're amazing. And I'm going to try to do both here. So First off, with respect to Norfolk County, when you finally moved here, moved to Port Dover, continued working in Simcoe, you work there today. What is it that you maybe immediately loved about Norfolk County? And then what is it that maybe you've grown to appreciate over your time being here?
Yeah, I mean, the newness of it obviously was quite stark to me. It's quite interesting in a city where there's so many
What does everyone do here?
There's so many people, there's so many things to do. I say that with air quotations, but yet you don't really exploit all the things in your area. There's just almost too much. You don't really know your neighbors. But here it's almost like, wow, there's only a limited amount of things. Let's explore the downtown, or let's check out the trail. It seems more inviting to see the things that are just right at your doorstep. Everything's so close. And once you really start to explore and get to know people, it's very inviting and welcoming. And it almost seems like there's just so much more stuff to do here for me than there ever was in Burlington.
Right.
So the more I kind of peel at the onion, it's like, wow, there's many layers to this place. And running just kind of went hand in hand because it helped me reach every area within the town. And then realizing, hey, wow, there's a wonderful trail system that goes right up to Simcoe, right behind my work. Like, I don't ever need a car. I can just commute and check everything out. So it's sort of appealing to explore and to feel like utilizing the entire area for what it is. So it's it just makes me appreciate it more and grow to love the area.
Nice. Did you sense that Norfolk County or Port Dover in general was like a welcoming community to you? Like, you mentioned that one of the things that you immediately got involved in kind of at the same time you moved here was like getting into running. And so those two things went well together?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I'd say it definitely is different. Me coming for the first time with my Burlington attitude, where you don't really say hello to people when you go on the sidewalk, and you kind of, it's a very, common thing. You walk down the sidewalk, someone comes towards you, and you just look the other way.
Because you're just used, your default position is, I don't know this person.
Yes, exactly.
And I'm not going to have a conversation, so I don't even really engage at all, right?
So my first, walking downtown here, and I go by, and there's this elderly guy just going by, and he's like, oh, hello. And I just kind of do my Burlington thing and look away. And then he seemed startled, and he looked back at me, he's like, hello. And I'm like, whoa, I'm supposed to say something back. So and then I realized as I went to downtown, everyone's saying hello. Everyone's so well. I'm like, okay, well, I guess it's actually funny now.
Not in Kansas anymore.
When I go back to Burlington, I usually now say hello to people on the sidewalk.
And you get dirty look, you get looks.
Exactly.
Look back like, hey, bud, keep it moving.
It's hilarious, yeah.
Okay.
So, getting that frame of mind, okay, yes, this place is different. And then the same with running too. It was, hey, there's a ton of people, and it's a lot better than walking because I can get places further and explore more. So why not run?
Awesome. Cool. So did you start connecting with North Shore Athletics? Is that who you connected with?
That's right, yeah. I just basically maybe the frugalness in me. I thought, well, because I had always gone to a gym for, eons before. And I thought, well, I can sign up for a gym, but that cost, I don't know how much a month, or a running club. This seems more, affordable. Why not?
Nice.
So yeah, I just went down to North Shore, met Scott, and he said, oh yeah, you got a running group, and it's Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. And I said, well, today's Tuesday. Can I just come today? And he says, oh, you got 15 minutes. I'm like, oh, okay. So I ran home.
You probably actually had 14 minutes, because I know Scott. He doesn't wait.
No, I ran home in my street shoes, and then threw on whatever running shoes I thought I had, and ran right back. And I was like, oh, wow, this is interesting.
So was that, were those literally some of your first ever running steps?
I've always ran on a treadmill, but then doing this, I felt funny, like running down a sidewalk. Like, I didn't know that wow. It feels wrong. Like, hey, no running in the hall, like it's, you're always told as a kid, hey, stop running around, stop doing this.
Okay.
So it's an unnatural thing I never even thought, hey, you could really run around the roads like they were, share the road. Like, pedestrians can use the roads too. I never thought that was a thing. So, wow. Yeah, some of my first steps, and then, plunge right into the learn to run, classes, and try to figure things out as I go. So I was a complete novice, only a few years ago, really.
Now, as an engineer, it probably didn't take you time to get hooked into you probably read 50 books, maybe not 50, maybe 49. You probably devoured material content. You listened up. Is that, I don't know that about you, but I'm guessing that you probably went to town on that.
You kind of throw the dart right on the middle there.
Wow.
And mostly too, for me, what drives me is making mistakes too, messing up. Nothing drives me more than to say, wow, I really didn't do that very well. I don't want to let that define me. That's embarrassing. I got to do better. So yeah, it was almost like starting right from scratch with something. Like it was kind of a fantastic opportunity. I had no prior real experience, and so I got to learn it, the hard way. And
I'd imagine as an engineer too, you probably enjoy being a student. Like you probably enjoy not just learning, but the process of learning, because it's often very structured here in our North American. The way that we do teaching and education is very structured and logical, and so I imagine that fits with you. So a guy like Scott Brockbank, or some of those people who you would have been able to watch and soak in, you would have really enjoyed that process, which would have allowed you to accelerate in your ability to become not just competent in running, but being able to actually like perform and reflect and take feedback, and then use that information to get better.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it seemed like a strange thing to be trying to run for the first time, and you see all these different people, different, ages and kind of walks of life, and they're kind of, kicking your butt. And it's like, whoa, how does this happen? Like, I thought I was a young guy and just not in great shape. And, there's different motivational factors for sure, but getting better at a craft is excellent. And it takes a lot of time and hard work. And I don't know, that's kind of the nice thing about this, is that, no one cheats and just shows up and is, the best marathoner. Like, it's something
there's
that
no
you
cheating
have to
in
work
endurance
for.
sports. You can't fake it. You cannot fake it.
So I just wish, again, as a kid, I knew, hey, there's such a thing as distance running. It just means hard work. And sign me up. But
nice. So Chris, I want you to talk a little bit about some of your accomplishments, so that some of our listeners, they won't have a clue when you say some of these numbers. But you've run Boston. Is that correct? Yep. And what did you run?
Well, I ran 2 hours, 43 minutes.
Okay.
And 9 seconds for the nerds, I guess.
Okay. So Chris Veska, you are a 2:43 Boston marathoner. For the listener to understand, that is, I don't know if I would say world class.
No.
That is, I mean, you are in the 0.000000 like percentile, or maybe it's the other way around, the 99.999. Like Chris is a phenomenal runner. Okay. So his capacity, his physiology, his training, all that he has done, Chris, you are an unordinary runner. You excel in it. And I'm not saying that to boost your ego, because you probably don't even want that. But I'm saying that for the listener to understand that like Chris is exceptional in what he does as a runner. And now, Chris, I want to ask you for some of your accomplishments because you're not just like a marathoner, but you go way deeper. So I'm gonna for the listener's sake, I'm gonna walk through Chris's 2022. I've got some of your Strava events here, and so in March 27th, Chris ran a 30-kilometer event in Hamilton called Around the Bay, and he ran 30 kilometers in an hour and 53 minutes. Then on July 2nd, Chris ran an event called Limberlost, a 56-kilometer or 57.5-kilometer event with, it looks like...
Ran that with my wife, Courtney.
Yeah, about 3,600 feet of elevation, all trail. And then on August 28th, I think this was maybe one of the peak events for this year. Chris won. So first overall, the Millennium Meadows Marathon, which was held in Walker. It says here Walker, USA.
Yeah, it's actually Pinckney.
It's okay.
Something like that. Yeah, it runs through Hell, Michigan, but
okay. Yeah. And first place overall, and you ran a 2:44 marathon there. I can't see the elevation here, but I'd imagine there must have been a bit of elevation.
Oh, right.
In that.
Yeah, sorry. I forgot about that one. That was the marathon right before the other.
Yeah, you forgot about your 2:44 marathon. Yeah. That's okay.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that thing.
Exceptional. And then it looks like about 11 or 12 days later, Chris ran. I'm assuming this is what you spent your 2022 training for. You ran the Run Woodstock Hallucination 100 miler. Yep. So for Canadians like me, that's 160 kilometers, 160, and 17 hours and 43 minutes. That to me is probably the more impressive. Both are impressive, but the fact that you were able to accomplish that much running in 17 hours and 43 minutes. And there's a really cool picture here of you with your wife, Courtney, on the first place podium. And you are popping a champagne bottle, and your wife is trying to dodge it. And like you're standing after 17:43 of running, 162.93 kilometers.
Oh yeah.
You kept a pace which is respectable for the average Joe. If they went out and ran 3 kilometers, that's about, you held that for 17 hours. Chris, these are phenomenal accomplishments. Now, before I let you comment, for the listener, I want you to be able to understand how it is that Chris got there. So looking at his Strava page here, Chris averages 10 runs a week. Chris averages 150 kilometers of running a week. His average run time a week is 12 and a half hours. And Chris, those numbers, as you hear them, I want you to, the reason I'm doing this is I want you to hear and just be like, soak in this. I know that you know this, but to hear it in that context, what do you think as you're hearing these numbers being shouted out to you?
I kind of normalize it. Like it's
this is like,
yeah. Like, I mean, it's a true passion and you make time for the things that you love. Like even hearing about the times for the marathon or the 100 miler. I mean, they're so normal because when you prepare so much, it's just like that's kind of what your focus or your goal is, that it's not shocking to me. It's just, I worked hard for it. The race itself is really just a celebration of the hard work that I did. So I just showed up and just kind of, had fun, but the actual race was done all the months leading up to it. So, good. The amount of preparation and work I put in was, it was a good level of dedication, but it was fun. Like it's a true passion. And I just kind of, I don't know, reflecting back on the year, there's been a lot of really great moments. And, a lot of people might think like, oh, wow, winning the race was the best moment, which I can tell you, no, that was actually kind of the low point in a way. It's sort of anticlimactic. And, both races, I think I remember, first of all, the race organizers not believing that I was I'm going the wrong way. Like, no, you have to keep going. You're not done yet. I'm like, no, I'm pretty sure I'm done. I think I put in enough time.
Wow.
You catch people off guard. They're not expecting someone to come in. So it's kind of, But the memories that I had with my friends and family, my wife, those are the real treasures that I have. Yeah. It's almost like running now is sort of it's sort of the excuse to go, explore a interesting new area and meet some friends and share the experience. And, I'd say some of my favorite runs of the year weren't even the races in a sense. It was, we call it the fun run. We run from Hamilton to Toronto every year. And, the memories or the thoughts, even just like little insignificant details that, people would miss, just even seeing almost like, hey, there's a weird little bottle cap on the ground as you're passing by. Just funny memories. Like these are little treasures that you value with the people that you're running with in your community. And it's, these things that you'll remember for your whole life. So the races and events are great and the accomplishments are great, but it really is the process getting there that I value so much more.
Nice. So for the listener who's like, maybe not a runner, maybe not into fitness, but there may be things that they're dedicated to or devoted to right now. Maybe it's business, maybe it's, raising their family, maybe it's, entrepreneurship, whatever it is. And they're pretty locked in and focused on this goal, and they're in the trenches every day of working. And like, tell me how running or training like you have is kind of similar in the sense of like the ups and downs, the grind, the setbacks, injury, all that journey along the way. And what are some things that you could share that would be helpful for the average person to say, here's some things that help me to keep going when things are hard?
Yeah. I mean, maybe I'm kind of stubborn. So when things get hard, I just, buckle in and try to enjoy the ride. There's days that, I'm kind of sore, but then there's days that are kind of magical, that are, memorable in even their, mundaneness. And, is a good mix of running with people or sharing experiences with people. So you kind of live for those little moments. And I always remember kind of starting running with my friend Scott Clark, phenomenal.
I know
runner.
Scott. Do you know that?
Oh, yeah.
We
Scott.
did a 50K together.
Oh yeah,
yeah,
no doubt.
Awesome.
He's always the classic.
His mom was also my grade 7 teacher, Diane. I don't know if you've met her.
No, I mean that's
she's a school teacher. Yeah.
But Scott, like when he was part of North Shore, he'd show up and, like, wow, what a fantastic runner. And I'm going to hang out with this guy. All I have to do is just try to hold on while he's casually having a conversation. So interesting. And he was always up for these, just even still today, he'll message me and say, hey, let's go on this random run somewhere. Are you good for 30K? And
are you good for 30K?
Yeah, in my mind, it's like, I think my goal is really to just be ready to do any activity that Scott or anyone else is going to ask of me. So even today, I'm like, well, I got to be ready in case if someone says, hey, do you want to do a 50K this weekend? I can confidently say, yeah, I think I can do that. So
okay, wow.
Yeah.
Awesome, man. Chris, what do you got next? What's on the calendar for? I know you have the Houston Marathon.
Yeah. Houston's coming up, so that's gonna be a real challenge for me.
Is that in December?
That's actually January.
So, okay.
Yeah, the hard part is probably getting through Christmas without eating absolutely everything in my sight, because as a runner, sometimes you get a bit hungry.
Yeah.
But after that, it'll be the typical Chili Half Marathon around the Bay, kind of classic races that we all do in the area, and then back to Boston again. So
nice. And you qualified for Boston at which event?
Well, funny enough, Boston itself.
That's right. Okay.
Over and over. But yeah, I did that, and then obviously Millennium Meadows this year as well. So what's actually kind of special about this Boston though is that, well, Scott Clark and my good friend Cam Kirkwood, they ran the Toronto Marathon shortly after Boston.
Oh, they queued?
They both qualified. That was actually probably my best running day of the entire year. by far. And I couldn't even run probably 2 steps because I was still kind of nursing sore legs after Boston. But
Okay.
to see them both come through and just, we were following them along the course and cheering them on, both me and my wife, Courtney, and just seeing them, pull off this magical day and then celebrate like it was Cam's 40th birthday. And it was just, we still talk about it like fondly. So this year's, we're going to get to go to Boston, all 3 of us. And
oh man, I'm jelly, man. I wish there was
kinda,
4 of us going, but
and yeah, well, hey, next time for sure. Just
yeah,
let's
I might
go.
put a build in next year to try to do it.
Oh,
So
for sure.
I'm curious, Scott, did he have to run 3:10? 3:05?
3:05. He did, I think, a 2:56. So
Okay.
he just pulled out this like, we were confident.
So was he
with Scott.
thinking 3:04:59? Like was he, or
No,
did he think he'd get
well,
under?
I'm not really sure what Scott was
that's-
thinking because Scott can be kind of cryptic that way.
Okay,
He's
yeah,
just
yeah.
going to be.
Because
"Well, I'm
you
gonna
don't
go
just
for a run."
you don't just accidentally run 9 minutes under what you think. So
Well,
he
yeah.
must have been confident he
Oh,
had
yeah.
it. Okay.
Like as we were watching him along the way, it was, it was fascinating to see. I
Wow.
had just run a fresh marathon, and so from my experience to see on the other vantage point of what they're going through, classic. We saw them at 5-10K, and they're all chipper and happy, and I'm like, oh, this is cute.
Wait till
get to
25.
Yeah, and sure enough, about 35, and the wind got to them, and a different change of pace. But that's when we knew, hey, you guys gotta, we're here for you, and we thought, well, we helped push them along anyway.
Yeah.
But it's I don't know, bittersweet. It's been a really great year. There's been ups and downs, like usual, and that is really life and running. But yeah, we're looking forward to next year and what it brings.
Awesome. Well, Chris, I'd love to have you back maybe for another podcast, or maybe even in a different podcast setting, to nerd out and talk numbers and all that stuff.
I definitely can.
Yeah, I would love to. But the average listener on this podcast probably not going to be there. We'll lose them if we do. So let's just wrap up. I'm going to hit you with a couple quick ones here.
Sure.
As we wrap up our time, Chris, if someone wanted to follow a bit in your footsteps in getting into, and it doesn't even have to be running necessarily, but let's talk about running for a second, as it doesn't cost anything. It's accessible to anyone. I mean, assuming you have a pair of running shoes, and there's community around here. If running's the most accessible thing someone can do, or even like just starting walking and learning to run, how would they do that?
Yeah, I mean,
Like here in Norfolk County specifically.
I would definitely, advocate trying to get people together, run in a group, even if it's just a person, because, running, when you first start off, it's kind of a stressful, maybe scary thing. Your body is like, oh, fight or flight. I got to run. This is a stressful thing. It's all about relaxation and being calm, and teaching your body, hey, this is something I can do for indefinite period of time, and it's not stressful. Having a good friend there, the conversations you can have can be endless and go everywhere, but it really helps teach that relaxation, and it gives you that drive to, hey, I like this person, I want to come back again and talk. And if you don't have that, there's really great programs for treadmills. iFit, which is one that I use. It's an online running platform, and it's basically you can run along with a trainer or a buddy in case if you don't have someone else to talk to. And I guess third is just contact Don Bonnet. If you want someone to talk to and run with, he's all over the town, and he will chat your ear off, so it's perfect.
So he's a Don Bonnet here in Port Dover?
Yep.
Nice. Can be found on Facebook?
No, probably on the roads. Just go out there, and he'll be the guy that will just nonstop talk, and he'll come up to you.
Awesome, man. Chris, we all have a lot to be thankful for. And I mean, I think about Norfolk County, being born and raised here. You inherit the world. You don't make it when you're a kid, right? You're just, you inherit. And so I inherited so much good when I was born and raised in this particular environment. And there's so many people as a kid, I had no idea how appreciative I should have been. Not that I wasn't, but it's as I get older, I understand how the world works. I understand decisions people make and choices they make. And I can recognize those who really heavily contributed and influenced me in my life. And so I want to give you an opportunity to thinking about even just back to your Burlington days and now here in Norfolk County, like who are some people that you might want to say thank you to for investing in your life, supporting and encouraging you on your journey to, this unordinary life of running that you have?
Obviously my mom, for always, saying quit hamming it up and get out there. She was actually at the 100-miler race, and every time I saw her,
cool.
I thought, I can't really show weakness because she'll just say, quit hamming it up and get out there. It can be pretty motivating. My wife, Courtney, obviously. Without her, I'd be lost. I don't know what I'd be doing. And then all our friends, starting off at North Shore with Scott, everybody in the running community, there's so many people there, Gail's there and Al and, Sheila, there's just so many people, and then, the likes of Don Bonnet, ultra runner extraordinaire, and thinking who is this guy? He does what? And now to normalize, hey, I'm talking on the same level as this guy. Scott Clark, obviously, for just trying to essentially murder me on runs, I think. Just being I just got to hold on.
He's too nice to be a murderer,
I
isn't he?
know, but it's just sometimes those runs, it's when is this over? I can barely breathe. And my brother, Cam Kirkwood, we run together every day, and just his rise to becoming an elite runner is just staggering. It's incredible. Everyone that surrounds me in the running community is just, I'm ever thankful because they leave impressions on you, and great conversations to be had, and it just motivates you to do more and to say, hey, I'm also a pillar here. I'm also helping to hold up this community, and I got to be at my best to represent and to, help other people along as well.
Cool. Well, Chris, you should anticipate people coming to you in the future to say, hey, are you Chris? You've run Boston, you've done this and that. Can you help me? And I think that when that comes, I hope that you're a guy who's able to step up and say, yeah, you know what, here, let's right. I think you could be really valuable with your knowledge, obviously your intelligence, and the fact that you can acquire knowledge, apply it, get better, feedback, get better, and you'll be valuable to be able to help others in this community as well. And I know that you're going to do that. So last question would be, are you planning to stick around in Norfolk for a long time and help make it a better place?
Yeah, for sure. That's my ultimate dream now. So I'm here.
Awesome, man. Cool. Well, Chris, you are unordinary. And thank you so much for being on the show with us here today.
Well, thank you very much.
All right. We'll see you around town. This episode of Norfolk Unordinary is brought to you by Coco Cabana Chocolate Fudge Gourmet Cafe. Follow them on Facebook and Instagram, 16 Walker Street, Port Dover, Ontario.